Alright, this video I'm going to show you how I hang gutters. Now, first thing I got to do is get a measurement here for the length of my gutter. So you're going to see me come over here, and I got about 144 there. So I'm going to need overall, I got to add an inch of overhang to the right side because it's not buttoned up against the house. So I got to go 145. Now these gutter pieces are 10 foot long, so I'm going to have to do this in two pieces. So 145 inches minus 10 foot, which is 120 inches, leaves me with 25 inches. So what I got to do is come down 25 inches and then add a foot, because I'm going to overlap this a foot, which you'll see how I do this, and which I'm marking right here. That's 12 inches right there, and then I'm double checking my measurement here to make sure it's cut right, or it's marked right, and it is. So I'm going to take my combination square and make my cut lines. Now you're going to see me, when I cut this, I'm going to use a cutoff wheel. Now you can use snips as well, but I kind of figured that might not be as easy as a cutoff wheel. I have a background in sheet metal fabrication, so we use cutoff wheels all the time, which is what this is right there. What it is basically it's a really thin grinding wheel that just slices right through metals, plastics, shingles, fingers. You got to be very careful when you use it, because if you don't hold on tight and you try to go too fast, it will kick on you. I've got scars from where it's bit me a couple times, but as you're going to see here, it's going to cut right through this gutter, and it's pretty fast too. I imagine if you were trying to use snips, this would be a pain to do. I haven't tried that yet. I think I already said that, but there's another way you can do guttering. They're called seamless gutters. What it is, it's if you find somebody that has a form, they just put a roll of aluminum inside the form, and then they could run the aluminum through their form, and it shoots out the seamless gutter, whatever size you need it. And I got estimates for that, and this weighs about, I did a 35-foot gutter on the back of the house, and that gutter would have cost me like $100, I think, to have it done just seamless. So the way I did it is less than 20. So this isn't a really nice house, so I figured I'd just save the money. The foundation shifts. There's the front of the house is sunk down a little bit, so I don't want to put a lot of money into this place. But what you're seeing me do here is when I overlap the gutter, I got to go in a foot. So what I'm doing is I'm trimming off. There's a lip inside here that I need to trim off so that the other piece will slide inside this one. Now at the end here, I probably should have just used snips to cut this end piece off, but I'm trying to do it with the cutoff wheel. And this is the first time I've done gutters, so I'm learning a lot here. But I ended up almost cutting through the gutter, trying to get that cut off there, which you can see me checking. It didn't go all the way through. It had a little mark, but it's nothing going to be noticeable. Alright, so here's where I join the two pieces of gutter. So the first thing I do is caulk the inside that the gutter is going to slide into. This is obviously so the water doesn't seep out to the bottom. And there's a special caulk that you need. I noticed it seems to dry hard. So one of the guys at the store I bought all this from said that he did this for a living. He told me that silicone doesn't work, that you have to get a special brand to do it. And I think he's right, because this caulk, again, it dries really hard, so kind of bonds the metal together. So after I get all this caulked, I'm going to slide the other piece inside here and then press it down and then rivet it. So That's caulked. Now I grab my other piece and I just push it down from the top in. And you'll see this is why I cut off that lip, because if that lip was still there, this other piece wouldn't slide in over underneath the lip there, right there. Okay, so I got those joined. Now what I have to do is rivet it. Now that aluminum, when you cut aluminum, it leaves kind of a groove on the outside, well, on the cut. But here's where I'm drilling an 1/8 inch hole to put my rivets through. And I'm going from the back in because when you hang it, the rivet is flat. Yeah, I gotta plug it in, that always helps. But I go from the back in on the back side of the gutter because rivets obviously leave a little bit of the rivet sticking out to join the pieces. You'll see here. Okay, so I got my hole and I put my rivet in. And you'll see it sticks out quite a bit. So that's why you gotta go from the back in. One thing I noticed is it helps to, when you drill the holes, it helps to kind of wiggle the drill bit around like that. The rivet goes in a lot easier. Don't do it too much though, because if it's too wide, the rivet will pop back out. So I got my rivet in place, take my rivet gun and pop it. Alright, now I go to the front side where the lip is, and then I put a rivet in there just to help hold it down. Because when you put the rivet on the back side, you got to make sure you're pushing down to kind of push the piece, the inside piece, into the caulk so that it spreads and you get less of a chance of any leaks. And I put 2 rivets on the outside, and I'm pushing in to make sure that it's snug so it looks better. And pop in the rivet. And I'm going to skip over this last rivet because you should understand what's going on there. So the last thing I got to do is install the flange for the downspout. So what I'm doing here is I'm measuring to the center line where I want the flange, the downspout to be. And then I got to add 1 inch because of the overhang. So that's what I'm doing here. I'm coming over, taking my measurement, and marking where it's going to go. Now, I'm pretty sure these flanges are supposed to be installed on the inside, but to save time here, I'm just going to install them on the outside. I know this, the gutter's white, the downspout's white, the flanges are silver, and I could probably just paint them white, but this house really isn't anything nice, so just to save time, I'm going to make it real easy to put them on the outside. Plus, the water, it makes more sense to have them on the outside because the water, if the flange is on the inside, it's going to restrict some of the water from going down the downspout. I doubt that it makes that much of a difference though, because if your gutters are going to be full of water, eventually it's going to fill up to where it's going to go down the downspout. But you'll see here, this is where I'm going to save a lot of time by doing it this way. I don't have to cut that entire piece out and make it look real nice so that the flange fits inside. All I do is cut a little X with a cutoff wheel, and I cut the 2 outsides off, and then bend down the other pieces and put the flange over top of them, riveted in. You'll see here. That's what I mean by bending the other pieces down. It's easier to, I was going to try to, and this is the first time I've done this, I'm going to try to bend those down, but that doesn't work, so this is why I ended up just cutting them off. That's right there. You see what I mean by the grinding wheel kicking. You really don't. You got to be slow and make sure you got a good handle on it, because if it kicks on you, it's gonna leave a little mark like you saw there. And you don't want that if it's, if you got to keep your pieces looking nice. Oh, and those pieces are hot after you cut them right away. You just saw me realize that, which I should know by now. Well, aluminum doesn't disperses heat a lot easier, so it doesn't get as hot as other metals. Okay, now here's me seating the flange over the hole, and then what I do is just rivet it in. Let's see if I remember to plug it in. And I did. So, gotta drill my holes. And then put the rivet in on the outside. And I'm going to skip over all the other holes. You should get the idea. All it is me drilling holes through the flange holes and putting rivets in. So moving on. Now I have to install the ends. So this part is me caulking them and just sliding them on. Someone at the store told me to put rivets in them, but I didn't really like that idea, so I'm just going to try caulking the ends and hope they stay. And this, as I said before, this caulk becomes really hard and bonds really well, so I think just doing what I'm doing here is enough, provided you have the right caulk. If you use silicone or something like that, I would imagine it would eventually, over time, just fall off. So what I'm doing is filling the parts on the ends where the gutter slides in here. And I also go back, you'll see later on, once it's pushed on the end, I go back and caulk it again from the inside. I'll speed this one up. Alright, now I'm just pushing it on the end here. And the other side. And now you put your clips in. These are what's going to fasten the guttering to the fascia boards. I just go down about every 2 foot. And put these in. They slide under the outside first. So let me speed this up. Now this one butts up against the house, so I'm not going to do a center line, but if you've got a piece that doesn't butt up against anything, it helps to make a center line mark on the fascia board and in the gutter, so you can line it up and know exactly where the gutter goes. Now you're going to see me start in the middle here. I just found it easier this way. Makes more sense. That way you can angle the guttering so the water drains properly. So what I'm doing is screwing my center hanger in, and once that's fastened, you can see I can tilt the gutter how I want it so that the water drains. And then what I do is just work from the center out to both sides, just making sure it's up against the J channel there, and it is. So I'm good. I'm going to go in and screw the rest of them down, which I'm going to speed through here. This is all fairly simple. You just move the level down the gutter. Once you got the pitch right, screw the hanger in. And again, working from the center to the outsides. Alright, now it's time to install the downspout. So I grab my elbows here, and I'm going to put them together the right way, and just stick them up to the flange to see kind of how far in I have to go or out. You can see just by eyeballing it here, I gotta go in quite a bit, so I'm going to try pushing it in as much as I can here. And then again over here. And then once I got it in as far as I can go, I put rivets in the sides, which you'll see. So this is just checking it again. That's about as good as I'm going to get it, so I'm going to rivet it here. I try to take that sticker off, but it was too much of a pain, so I figured over time it'll just fall off. I know you can take, if you want to get the stickers off, you can take like hot water and soap. They come off pretty easy that way. It's a lot of work. I don't really care if people see them or not though, so I'm just leaving them on. I'll let the weather take care of it. And here, putting the rivets in, one on each side. And popping it. And the other side, which I'm going to speed up. You get the idea. Now I'm putting holes in here. This is the side that's going to slide onto the flange. So I'm just putting holes on here real quick so it's easier to drill. Grabbing my rivets, rivet gun, walking over, and installing it on the flange. So just drill through the holes that I just made and popping a rivet in. You get the idea here. So after that's riveted on, I go over and get my piece ready and then take a measurement to see how long I have to cut it. So just to hold the tape, I'm going to go up from the middle of it where there's a groove I can put the tape on. And what I'll have to do is add material that is going to stick inside this elbow or over top of this elbow, and then subtract that length because I don't have the tape on the end, and then add again for the amount the piece is going to stick over top of that elbow. So here I'm just putting the elbow in to see how far it actually sticks inside to get my actual measurement. So making a mark so I can take it out again and then measure, and it's about 1 inch. So now I know what I need to cut this at, which is what I'm doing here. I'm going to come down with my tape, make my marks, and cut it, which you probably don't need to see. This is all common sense. So speeding this up, I'm just making my mark again, cutting it. If you don't understand what I'm doing here, you should probably just hire somebody to do this for you. Now, I just cut off my piece that would go on the other end of the elbow. Not really too hard to figure out. This again, I'm just riveting this in on both sides, and then my piece, it should slide over top of these elbows, and then I could put my fasteners on to secure it to the house. Now sometimes these are hard to get on, so sometimes it helps if you got a pair of crimpers. Sometimes those help, but if you push hard enough and get it just right, they usually slide on. These can be a pain though, as you're seeing here. You gotta kind of wrap it around the outside, not too far up, but just on the edge, and then push it in, and then it should slide on, just like that. Now, I'm going to hold my piece up there so it doesn't rip it off, and I'm going to try to push it up even more. And now all I have to do is rivet this together, and then I can put my straps on to secure it to the house, which I'm going to show you here. Actually, you don't need to see this riveting process. All it is me drilling. You should understand how all this works. Just drilling my holes, putting the rivets in. No new information here. Okay, now here's the straps that secure the gutter to the house. You might want to level it if you're not close to. I can kind of eyeball this because it's so close to vertical lines. You can see where it's at. And another thing is, if you're doing a bunch of gutters, it's easier to pre-drill a hole in there to put the screw through. So if you leave all the straps together, you can drill through all of them at the same time and figure that out till later. So this is doing one at a time. Of course, plugging it in because power helps. But you see how these particular straps, they're like stamped, so they can all sit on top of each other, so you can save a lot of time by just drilling them all at the same time. I didn't think about that right away. I was still kind of wondering how those worked because I've never installed them before. And then once you have them drilled out, you can install them on the gutter, fasten the gutter to the house, and it just slides over just like that. Again, you might want to use a level to level the gutter up. And another thing is, you want to probably use stainless steel screws. I ended up replacing these screws later because I didn't have any stainless steel ones on hand. But all you do is hold that in there and screw them in just like that easy. And if you got a spot where you can put the strap over the seam of the gutter, which I thought it would be too far down on the bottom, but the top here, I'd do it on the top here. You can see, I was like, yeah, okay, I'll cover that up. It looks nicer that way. And you get the picture here. Same process as below, just screwing them in, but again, use stainless steel screws. And there's the straps installed and the gutter. Now I just have to recalk the insides here so it's sealed better. And I must speed through this first one because I'm not paying attention to what I'm doing with the camera and you can't really see anything. But here, just going along the seams. Hopefully it's better on the other side. I'll show you that. Yeah, I'm going to caulk the seam here. Now I would use more caulk than I use here because one of the seams on one of the gutters, it ended up leaking, so I had to go back and redo it. So I'd probably use twice as much caulk as I show you here. I've seen some other YouTube videos of professionals that do this for a living that they do use a lot of this. So just smearing it down with my fingers and then pushing it out. and pressing it down. You may even want to let it dry and then go back and try it again, maybe. It might help. But there's like a little groove or ridge. Oh, there you can see me smearing it. And again, I'd probably use a lot more. And I'm not looking again. Well, you should get the idea here. This is basically the last step of installing the gutter. Alright, here I'm going to show you real quick how I do the 90-degree gutters. You gotta cut them. You gotta cut the gutter at 45 degrees, and then they'll slide inside this 90 piece here. So basically, what I'm doing is putting the caulk in, and both of them are gonna slide on the inside because this piece is bigger than the guttering. They won't fit on the outside, just in case you think you can try that to go down with the water like I did. Didn't work, which is why you see the holes drilled and everything. So I got that piece in, or the caulk in. I'm going to do the other side here, so I can just do them both real quick. Let me speed this up. And here I'm just sliding the other piece in, and then my neighbor came over to talk, so I ended up cutting the video here after this first piece gets in. Alright, now I'm doing a second piece here, just sliding in just like the other one. You'll see they're both cut at 45, so you only have to caulk one seam when they're cut like that. But I'm going to speed through all these rivets, because it's just putting rivets back in the holes. And then here's caulking the seam. Now this is the seam that I was talking about earlier, the one that ended up leaking on me. So again, I would put probably twice as much caulk on as I'm showing you here. Also, it might help to take the slag off with a file, but I didn't have one, so I just left it. Because aluminum, when you cut through with those cutoff wheels, if you do use a cutoff wheel, if you're using snips, you probably won't get the slag. But I called it a groove earlier. But what it is just the aluminum. When you rip through it with that grinding wheel, it leaves a little bit of a slag on the cut. And I just figured I'd put caulk up to it. But this is me trying to get inside all the grooves, and I obviously missed it because this is the one that leaked. I'm gonna fast forward through the rest of all this because I showed you how to do all this on the other piece of guttering. This is just going through, getting tools and finishing the caulk, putting the hangers in, getting my measurement for how far over I want to put the flange for the downspout. Marking that, cutting it. I did it a little different this time. I cut the outsides first, so that seemed to go faster. And then I'm just riveting the flange on. You can see I got 2 rivets in first, and then I drilled all the rest of the holes. You gotta get at least 2 in to secure the flange in place, so it doesn't move on you before you drill the rest of them. And then I'm putting the hangers in. I believe that's what they're called. Getting the rest of the tools I need ready, swapping my bit out, and taking her up to get her installed. Now the ones with the elbows, if they're pretty big, it wasn't easy to get up there by myself. It would have helped to have somebody holding one side. But eventually I figured out that if I screw it out the right side, just get it inserted, not really tightened down, it helped hold it up so I could level the other side, which you're gonna see here. I'll show you all that. And I'm not gonna show you the ends or the sloping. You should understand all that from the first part of the video. But this might be some helpful information here, is how I've got it started if you're doing this by yourself. See, this is the one that I just started. I didn't get it all the way in. Just helped it hold it up. Now I can kind of work my way down so that slopes so the rain goes where it's supposed to go. Now you're going to see here that I put that one up too high, so I end up having to take that one out once I get the level over there and see that it's going to be way too high to get it to slope where I need it to. And again, I'm not going to show you the ends or anything. All that was done in the first video. Actually, I think I'm just going to cut it right here. After you see once you get to the level where it needs to go, it's too high there, so I have to take that one down and then drop it down a little bit. But this process is like common sense. You just need to keep working with it until you got your slope right. So let's move on here. Now before I show you the flashing, let me show you this downspout here. Now I've got two different types of elbows here. Now I had to do this to get it over. These two are the same, and this middle one's different. That's how I ended up doing it. I'm not sure if that's how you do it, but it was fine with me. Alright, now this is the last thing you have to do. This is just flashing so that the water actually goes into the gutter when it comes off the roof. What I'm doing is I'm just lining my piece up to the end there, and then putting it up top and making my marks so I can notch out the flashing. And I'm just doing it in three or four pieces, because these are kind of just scrap, and you're not going to see them. They're going to get covered up. I'm re-roofing this house, so that's why the shingles look so bad. I just cut them back with the cutoff wheel so I can get everything else done. I'm just taking snips and cutting out where the hangers need to go. Then I'm going to slide this piece up underneath the shingles. Now if you're going to roof before it rains or anything like that, you might not even need to. You can probably just nail this right to the top of the shingles. If you're going over the shingles, complete tear off, you won't have to deal with shingles. But this is I noticed it helps on the other ones. This is the first time I've done this. But on the other ones, it helps to do that too, and kind of push the shingles up to help slide the flashing in. I'm going to speed through all this though. This is just me notching it out and fitting it up underneath the shingles. Take it out a couple times and notch it back even further, because it's not easy figuring out what exactly you have to cut out to get it to fit right. But once you get it in there, this is what it should look like. See, the water will drain down and actually go into the gutter instead of going back and sliding back behind the gutter or behind the fascia boards. And then I work my way down all the way to the end. Same process. Just want to make sure it's tucked up underneath the shingles if you're going under shingles. I believe that's pretty much all you need to know for installing gutters. If you wish to follow more of my creative and tech related videos, don't forget to subscribe to my YouTube channel by clicking on this button right here. I've also developed my own personal website where I write mostly creative and technology related articles as well as provide my services through these links within the main menu here. You can connect with me on social networks through these links that are provided throughout my website. Thank you for watching, and I hope my videos help.